I can do anything. I can reach any goal today. I can do what I want. I can be what I want to be.
Hi guys, Katie Azevedo here from SchoolHabits.com. Today I'm going to give you 7 ways to reduce your test anxiety. Now, test anxiety is completely normal. Everyone at some point feels nervous before an assessment because it's just not fun to be measured. Now, a certain level of anxiety is natural and actually beneficial because anxiety produces adrenaline, which is a hormone partially responsible for increased mental and physical performance. But too much anxiety will thwart your ability to relax and to focus. So here are 7 tips to overcome test anxiety. Number 1, make a plan. So you have to start prepping for your test the day you find out about it. That's not to say that you have to begin studying the moment you find out, but you must sit down with your calendar and map out your study schedule as soon as possible. So if there are 5 days before the test, then figure out what material you are going to study and on which of the 5 days, and write this all down on paper. Now, a huge contributor to test anxiety is feeling rushed or feeling like we're running out of time. Of course, you're going to feel stressed if you save all your studying for the night before. So by mapping out your plan as early as possible, you'll feel more in control of what you're doing and how you're going to go about doing it. And the more we have control over a situation, or the more we feel that we have control over a situation, the calmer we're going to be. Number 2, know what's on the test. So we fear the unknown, yes? So you can decrease your test anxiety significantly by finding out exactly what is on your test. If you don't know what's on the test, ask your teacher. If you think you already know, confirm with your teacher. So when you know precisely what's going to be on the test, you will know just what to study. And you're not going to stress about studying the wrong material or forgetting a chapter and showing up and being like, oh, I didn't know it was going to be on there. Number 3, prepare completely. So if you knew that you were going to be tested on all 50 states and their capitals, then you would study all 50 states and their capitals. And doing so would give you confidence going into the test. But let's say that you only studied 25 states and their capitals, even though the test is on all 50. Why would you do that? But just saying. How would you feel going into the test? Anxious? Yeah, of course. So when you don't know the material completely, you will experience test anxiety, guaranteed. My point here is that if you want to feel more confident on test day, then you absolutely must study the material. And this is where step 1, which was make a plan, and step 2, know what's on the test, converge. So if you make a schedule of what to study and when, and you know exactly what's on the test, and you really, really study it, you will significantly decrease your test anxiety. Again, it's a matter of having control. Studying the material puts you in control of it. Number 4, test yourself before the test. So here's another analogy, right? So let's say, I love analogies. Let's say that your coach wants you to run a mile in 8 minutes or less. If you practice every day and you know for sure that you have no problem running an 8-minute mile, you're not going to be nervous going into the race. But let's say that instead of practicing every day, you only run a few days here and there and you never time yourself. How are you going to feel going into the race? Nervous? Yeah, obviously, because you don't know if you can really do it. So in other words, you've got to test yourself before the test to see if you really know the material, a pre-test, okay? Now, there are 2 ways you could do this depending on how you set up your study schedule. So number 1, you could test yourself as you study. So after each night of studying, you quiz yourself on what you just studied. Or the second way is that you could quiz yourself at the end after you've studied for a few days. Or better yet, you could do both, quiz yourself along the way and then at the end. And there are several different ways that you could test yourself. You can kind of make your own quizzes, whether you're doing it as you go or at the end. So here are a few different ways that you can pre-test or test yourself. You could photocopy old worksheets with the answers blocked out or whited out and see if you can answer the questions. Just keep making photocopies and keep filling in the answers until you get it right. You could also write down key terms in one column on a sheet of paper and test yourself by writing in the definitions in another column. That's just a classic way. You can make and use flashcards, either paper or an app like Quizlet. I keep mentioning Quizlet. I don't work for Quizlet, I just like it. You could ask a friend to quiz you. Now, here's the thing though, group studying is awesome after you've studied the material by yourself. You gotta do it first to prove yourself that you really do know it. Maybe make your own quiz with multiple choice or open-ended questions. You can make a quiz and your friends can make quizzes and you can exchange quizzes, make them for each other. Play school, like you're 9. All right, you could also use the review section at the end of each chapter in your textbook. People overlook this a lot. You can usually find awesome quiz questions at the end of the section, at the end of each chapter, so use those. Also, teach someone else the material. This is a classic rule that if you can't teach it to a 6-year-old, you don't know it yourself. So, as I've said before, I think in another video, go find yourself a 6-year-old, teach it to them. Number 5, be nice to yourself. So we all get stressed out by different things. Personally, I get really stressed when things don't go according to plan because I like my routines. Everyone who knows me who's watching this is probably like, oh my God, yes. But my husband loves to be spontaneous and rip up the agenda. He does not get stressed by last minute changes. Complete opposites. So you might get stressed out over tests, but not over papers. And other students might be okay with tests, but get anxious about papers. We're all different, and these differences are awesome. But my point here is to tell you that there is nothing wrong with you. I can't say that enough. Just because you suffer from test anxiety. It is normal. Or at least it may be your normal. Okay, so be kind to yourself when you feel the nerves coming on. And when you do feel them come on, do all you can to take control of the situation. You are in charge, not school, not the material. So steps 1 through 4, and the next one, which we'll get to, are all about controlling the things that you can control, like your preparation. But you gotta be gentle with you. Trust that these steps will reduce your stress, at least a little, and don't judge yourself. Number 6, we're almost there because there's 7. So number 6, plan for the worst case scenario. Personally, I have to remind myself to do this one all the time because I do have a tendency to assume that the most dramatic outcome is the likeliest outcome, which just never happens. It's never the case. So here's what you do. On a piece of paper, write down the absolute worst thing that could happen if you don't do well on the test. So you might at first think something like, oh my gosh, if I fail, I'm gonna fail the class and I'll never get into college and I'll never get a job and I'm gonna live under a bridge with trolls for the rest of my life, forever. But none of that's real. That's not a possible outcome. So you must write down the worst case scenario that could really happen. So for example, maybe something like this. You write down that the worst thing that could happen if I fail the test is that it would bring down my class grade. Or the worst thing that could happen if I fail the test is that my parents will be mad. Or the worst thing that could happen if I fail the test, I'll have to do extra credit to make up for the grade. Now, write this down, right? So after you imagine the worst thing that could happen, think logically about how you'd handle it. No, really though, do this. Think of the problem and think of the solution. If the worst outcome you come up with is a failed test will bring down my class grade, then think about how you would handle that. What? Would you do extra credit? Is there a retest? Can you talk to your teacher? Write down your plan on a piece of paper. Sometimes just seeing it written down makes you realize that A, just how unlikely the outcome is, or B, how simple it would be to handle if it actually happened. Number 7, you made it to the end, is redefine stress. This is my favorite one. Bear with me here. Everyone knows that stress is detrimental. It contributes to depression, strokes, chronic pain, insomnia, heart attacks. Oh my gosh, stress is not good. And absolutely countless studies have proven the relationship between stress and these ailments. But sometimes even just the thought of feeling anxious causes anxiety. So thinking about stress makes you stressed. So when you experience the stress response, which for a lot of people is like sweating, increased heart rate, rapid breathing, just thinking about the sweaty palms, the rapid heart rate, and the breathing irregularities can increase the intensity of the stress response that you feel, and that is a really bad cycle. But what if students experiencing test anxiety, either temporary, like right now in the moment, or over an extended period of time, change their perspective on stress? Right? And viewed it as typical, helpful, and normal instead of scary, abnormal, and harmful, which are 3 words that we've typically used to define stress. Now, if you experience a rapid heart rate, you could recognize that your heart is pumping more intensely to circulate blood to help your body cope with the stress. That's awesome. If you experience nervous sweats, you could thank your body for regulating your body temperature until the stressful situation passes. That is also awesome. Your body does that by itself. You don't tell it to do that. Now, if you experience rapid breathing, you could appreciate your body's attempts to increase oxygen as a way to handle the elevated stress. Of course, that's awesome too. Listen, the body's stress response, it has an objective, and this is it. Its objective is to equip us adequately with the physical changes necessary to fight or to flight. In other words, to survive. The mind is a phenomenal organ, and it's incredibly powerful. And if we change our minds about anxiety, perhaps we can change our levels of anxiety. Now here's where I have to get into something else. So some people deal with severe test anxiety, right? Now the steps that I just walked you through, the 7 tips, are for dealing with general test anxiety. However, I do want to point out that some people experience acute test anxiety that's more severe than what I was just addressing. Some people, my heart hurts for you, they get so stressed at test time that they hyperventilate, they vomit, they even pass out. It happens. So if you experience any of these symptoms before a test, then I suggest that you work with a behaviorist who can help you come up with some coping mechanisms for these moments. There is help for you out there for this type of debilitating stress. But I do have some tips for dealing with severe test anxiety. And you might want to use them in conjunction with some extra help, but here they are. So first, breathe deeply through the nose. You match the in breath with the out breath. 7 counts in, 7 counts out. Don't underestimate the value of breathing. Okay? Ground yourself by looking around the room and acknowledge each of your 5 senses. You notice something that you see, what you feel, you hear, you smell. See, feel, hear, smell, taste. So you recognize, you look around the room, you say, I see that chair. I feel the ground beneath my feet. I hear somebody clicking on the computer. I smell cookies baking. Hopefully it's something good. But just recognizing that you've got all this sensory input around you can actually take you out of your head, which is where all this stress is, and ground you. Another strategy is during a test to answer all the easy questions first to build momentum and confidence. Yeah, that includes just writing your name on the paper. You write your name, the date, you're like, yeah, I got this question. All right, makes you feel good for the rest of the test. Repeat a positive mantra to yourself, or even write it down on a piece of paper, or even on the top of the test, something like, I know this, or this will be over soon, everything will be over soon. And my favorite, but it takes practice to do this, is to visualize all that tight, stressful energy in your chest, which is called your chi, flowing downward towards your feet. Your feet might actually feel heavy when you get good at this one. It's kind of cool. So this strategy has been around for thousands of years because it originates from ancient Chinese medicine. Try it, but the idea is that your chi flows in a circular movement and a circular motion throughout your body, and if you're stressed, it kind of gets all stuck and bunched up here. So if you imagine your chi, you have to release it down. Again, it's one of those things that's grounding. You put it in your feet, you let it flow, you release the tension. Worst case scenario, what you can do is ask the teacher to take the test later in the day, or asked to take in a quiet room by myself. I had to do that once in college for a chemistry exam. I took it by myself because I got so stressed out during the test that my tears, it's a true story, my tears and my hand sweat from stressing out so much ruined the paper. It just got the, like imagine if you dumped a bunch of water on a piece of paper, it like disintegrated. I couldn't even take the test. And I remember approaching the teacher, I'm like, I can't even, and I don't know what it was. I mean, we don't always know what triggers the anxiety, but I got a new test. I got to go into another room and take the test. It was still right then and there, but it was, Dr. Chen was the teacher, and I remember she made me feel good about it. But I'm one of you. This happens. It's normal. Remember, test anxiety is normal as long as you keep it in check. So hopefully these tips can help you do just that. Now leave your comments and your own suggestions in the sections below. In the section below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure other people would like to hear your tips too. And if you liked what you see here, and if you find it helpful, please like the video and subscribe. You can find me all over social media, and you can find me on SchoolHabits.com. Thanks for watching.